All right, I think we can get started now. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. I'm Cody. I'm a marketing specialist here at QNAP, and I'm here with our product manager, Deval.
Good morning, everybody.
And today we're going to be discussing the QTS 5.0 operating system just released for the QNAP NAS. And this latest OS is a big update with a lot of components of the interface getting a repolish for a smoother experience, better performance, and more security. So taking a look at the agenda here, we're going to start things off looking at the overall layout of the new OS in addition to going over some of our newly released features. Then we'll take a look at how QTS 5.0 boosts the performance of the NAS. And then we'll look at some added security safeguards coming with QTS5, as well as our newly added WireGuard VPN integration. And after this introduction to the newly released QTS5, Deval is going to demo for us the QTS5 OS. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A time. So any questions that you might have, you can go ahead and ask us that during the Q&A time at the end. And so right off the bat, when you spin up the QTS5, you'll notice a cleaner, crisper look that's easier to navigate. And for starters, the notifications are being broken up into two different sections. If you're used to the previously released QTS interface, there may be times when you've noticed notifications start to pile up with sometimes useful information, but sometimes not as useful. And so now there's alerts which could potentially be more urgent and have more relevance to things like your NAS security. And that's a different section. As you can see here, it's with a little bell there. And then there's going to be a notification board, which will have notices like new update availability for apps and things of that nature. And additionally, multiple notifications on the notification board they're kind of consolidated into various categories. So that makes it a little easier to browse through your notifications. Another added benefit of the new operating system is that the exFAT driver for compatibility with exFAT formatted external drives will now be natively included with the operating system rather than an additional purchase. In the past, this was an additional purchase, but now it's going to be available across QTS5 NAS units. And of course, the NAS itself will be running either the ext4 or ZFS file system, depending on whether you're using QTS or QTS0. But this driver will enable you to connect your exFAT external drives to the NAS. And if you're not super familiar with exFAT, the nice thing about it is that it's compatible with both Mac OS and Windows, and that that isn't always the case with all the file systems that you might initialize various external drives with. And then the FAT32 file system shares this compatibility, but it has a rather limiting file size restriction if you're moving larger files around. So exFAT really is a preferable file system to as opposed to a lot of others when it comes to external drives. And so now you'll be able to back those up super easily with no added purchase and no installation or anything. It's just set from the get-go. Additionally, we're adding a new FTP application to consolidate all FTP activity on the NAS into one location. If you aren't familiar with FTP, it's a file sharing protocol often used for sharing large files. This new FTP app is called QFTP, and you can use the QNAP as an FTP server, and also you can use the QNAP as an FTP client. QFTP is also supporting the TLS SSL protocol for added security. And the release of QTS5 is also bringing with it a new kernel, the Linux kernel 5.0 specifically, the 5.10. And with this addition, you can expect a substantial boost in PCIe performance and in turn improved NVMe SSD caching performance. And here at QNAP, we ran some tests with our TSH2490FU NAS running the new QTS5. And the results are actually pretty impressive. As you can see here, you can see some of the comparison of running it with previous 4.5.3 versus the 5.0. And in the vast majority of categories, you get some substantial boosts. And with certain models also will now be supporting tensor processing units, which can be used to increase image recognition speed. It will also be possible to assign your TPU to specific applications. So if you know that you will need that extra performance for a particular thing, you'll be able to focus those resources. And here you can see a couple of the available TPUs that you can add. There's both an M.2 option, or you can connect a TPU via a USB connection. And in addition to boosted performance, our latest OS is also more secure. We're now implementing the TLS 1.3 protocol, giving more secure cipher suites so that connections are made safer. Another addition is that apps can be automatically updated, and if they're not up to a recent enough version, the app actually will require an update before it can be used again. And this is done to ensure that vulnerabilities are kept to a minimum, as oftentimes malware will exploit vulnerabilities that have already been patched, but due to updates being put off, the NAS is left vulnerable. And the admin user as well will be disabled by default. And by this, we mean that you will no longer, you're not going to be logging in with an admin account labeled admin, but rather you will create an account with admin privileges under another name. And this just adds one more variable for a hacker trying to guess credentials to obtain administrative privileges to your NAS. You'll also be able to implement SSH keys for authentication to secure access to your NAS for added security. And as you may know, QNAP supports a number of VPN protocols, allowing you to use your QNAP as either a VPN server so that you can remotely access the network of the NAS via a secure VPN connection, or as a VPN client, enabling you to connect your NAS to a third-party VPN server and services. We have added the WireGuard VPN protocol to the list, and WireGuard is considered to be among the most secure VPN connections, and it also features an easy-to-use interface to set up connections. So this is one of the bigger additions to QTS5, and so we're really excited about this. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Deval, and he's going to demo this new OS for us.
Thank you very much, Cody. Let me change the presentation to myself. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Deval. I'm the product manager here at QNAP. So today I'll be demoing our new QTS 5.0 operating system and some of the features for that new operating system. So let me share my screen. All right, so you guys can see the screen right now. So the first things first I'm going to show is the new initialization process of a new, when you purchase a new QNAP NAS, we have overhauled the initialization process of the QNAP NAS. So so when you first log in, when you first turn on your new QNAP NAS and you open up QFinder, you will see that it requires initialization. When you go to the initialization process, this is the new process and how it looks. So you can now check for warranty right before you start the initialization process, and then now we have a new smart installation system that guides you through the process for initializing your NAS. You can do the smart installation, or if your NAS supports QTS Hero, you can switch the operating system to QTS Hero as well. And we're going to start with Smart Installation Guide, and then right off the bat, it will check for the new firmware to make sure that you have all the latest updates available before it can start initialization process. So when you hit next, for that, if the hard drive is ported over from another QNAP NAS, it will give you these options. We recommend restore factory default. It does not delete the data, just reset the settings, but it keeps your data intact. And if you just want to wipe everything and start the system from scratch, you can click on initialize system. So we're gonna hit initialize system. Now here you can name your NAS. So you can name your NAS. Your NAS a name for your. So when you boot up your NAS, this is the name it's gonna use. I'm gonna just put in DP 5.0. But this new 5.0 firmware, it now allows you to create a new username for your admin privileges. So no longer you can be using your admin account. That is disabled by default. That's that's a feature that we introduced with 5.0. This prevents any kind of attack to your NAS, because admin privileges do have access to the admin account is a root account for your Linux, because it's based off Linux operating system. So it has the root privileges to change anything within the SSH. So if somebody is able to guess your admin password, they can have access to your root privileges within your QNAP NAS. So to prevent that, we have now in the initialization process, we're now recommending users to create a new admin account. They still will have access to everything that a normal admin account will have. Just the SSH access will be limited. So if you wanna make any changes via SSH, then you need to re-enable the admin account. But for now, we're just gonna put in the password, the username password. Again, this account will have access to everything on that QNAP NAS, so you don't need to worry about having the admin account disabled. Your account will have access to everything except for SSH access is limited. So here you can choose your time zone. We're just going to leave it that way. You can also configure your IP address for your NAS right from this initialization process. And then if you have a Thunderbolt NAS, it will allow you to set your Thunderbolt settings as well. And then on the summary page, it will just give you a summary of all the things that we have done with the device. And then when you hit apply, just initialize the NAS. So this is a simple initialization process that QNAP has introduced with the new QTS 5.0. Again, the main thing is the user creation. Now you have to actually create a new admin account right off the bat, rather than having to go inside the QNAP NAS. So once it's created, you're going to be greeted to this new operating system right here. Again, it's more cleaner look as with the new 5.0. With notification board. Notification board allows you to consolidate all your notifications in a single like consolidated notification under different categories. So for example, App Center, any notifications for App Center like app updates or anything that like that will be consolidated under App Center. And if you want to look at all the updates for App Center, you can click on total notices, and here you will have all your notifications available for App Centers, any app updates available. Did you start any apps? Did you stop any apps? Or if there's any problems installation, it's all consolidated and under one particular section, which is App Center. You can also remove that notification, and it's going to clear that notification off your notification board, and now it's clear, and new notifications will be added here as well. You still have you still have access to your notifications, quick notifications, where if there's any errors or warnings, you'll still have number here with any errors or warnings. Errors are orange, warnings are red, so you will have notifications right here. You can quickly check that here as well. Another feature with QTS 5.0 is inclusion of exFAT license. So now when you install an exFAT hard drive within the QNAP NAS, going external storage, exFAT no longer requires an additional license to purchase. It's all included within the operating system. So as soon as you plug in an exFAT hard drive, the QNAP now can recognize and read and access data. You can copy, move across data as well. No longer need to purchase any additional license. You can also format that new, if you have a new external hard drive, if you want to format, exFAT is now as an option as well. So you can format with the QNAP with exFAT file system as well. So that's another inclusion with the QNAP NAS. So again, that's a great addition. Now going back to that admin account, right? So as I mentioned, admin account is disabled by default. So if you go under users, admin account is disabled by default. Now, for some reason, if you do need access to SSH or complete access to SSH with read and write permissions, you can enable that right here under edit permissions, and then you can uncheck this box, and admin account will again be activated again, and now you can access your account as well if you need access to your admin account. By default, the password for admin account would be the MAC address for your QNAP. So that's the default password for admin account in case if you need to access that as well. But again, this account is an administrator account and will have access to everything under the GUI. So you don't need to worry about having no access to your account. All right, so that's another feature with QTS 5.0. Another feature is with QTS 5.0 is public SSH key. So now you can actually create a public SSH key by accessing your account right here, and under options, then you can go to SSH keys, and you can add a new SSH key right here. You can use PuttyGen app on Windows, as well as we have instructions available for Mac as well to create a new SSH key within the QNAP, and you can paste it right here, and only that account will be able to access your SSH as well. All right, so that's how you can actually create public SSH key as well. Another major feature that we introduced with QTS 5.0 is QUFTP. Now, if you remember before, for FTP, for older firmwares, FTP was a service right here called FTP service. But now we have introduced an application, and we have consolidated all your FTP services or features within a single application. Now, by doing this, what we have done is that by having a separate application for FTP features, what we have done is that if there is any firmware or if there's any features that we need to introduce with FTP, or if there's any fixes, or if there's any bugs that we have for FTP and we want to quickly fix them, on older firmwares you have to actually wait for a firmware upgrade. But now we can just update a single application for FTP. So any FTP related bugs or features that we want to introduce will all be updated via just one single application. We can just so let's say if you have a new feature that we want to introduce just for FTP services, we no longer need to wait for firmware updates. We can just push an update for QUFTP service, and now that feature will be available without having to wait for a firmware update. Now, going back to the FTP service, the QUFTP is an application that, as I mentioned before, consolidates all your FTP services on a single application. So when you open the application, now you have access to monitor your sessions and your speed only for FTP. So if you have a lot of people who actually use FTP services and you want to see what speeds are they getting and how many users are online, under the QUFTP service, you can right here under speed, under monitor, you can actually check the speeds for your FTP services, and you can also see how many users are online using the online session option. So online sessions will show how many FTP users are online currently. Going to FTP, so that's just an option for overview. Now we have introduced a lot more features with a new QUFTP. So QUFTP, again, you can enable your FTP service, which is a standard FTP service. You can do FTP with SSL, TLS. You can also do SFFTP as well. So you can enable the SSH port, and you can enable SFTP if you want to use SFFTP for more secure connection. You can also do service binding, which means that you can bind, if you have multiple network ports on your QNAP NAS, you can actually dedicate a single network port just for FTP service. So you can disable everything right here for this. Let's say adapter 2, you just want to use it for FTP service. So you can disable all other services and just in checkbox FTP service, and only adapter 2 will now have access to FTP services. So all FTP communications will now use only adapter 2. This benefits more performance because you have only one single dedicated application for adapter 2. Depending upon the NAS, it can be 1 gig, 10 gig, 25 gig, or depending upon what NAS you have, you can dedicate, or even 2.5 gig as well. So you can dedicate all that bandwidth just for FTP services. So you can do that with service binding. With QNAP NAS, you can enable anonymous access for if you want to just without any username password. You can also enable welcome message. So when somebody logs in, you can also enable your personalized welcome message. You can do Z mode compression. You can also do root folder. So now FTP can set up, you can create a new shared folder on your QNAP NAS and then set that as a root folder for that account. And only so when users are logging in via FTP, they can only access that particular root folder. No other folders will, they won't have access to any other folders within the NAS. So that's another great feature with root folder as well. And now we also introduced warm feature as well. So you can select a folder within the QNAP NAS and they can set up as warm. So once they write into that FTP folder, they cannot make any changes to that data. They cannot delete the data. They cannot edit the data. They can only read that data once it's written within the FTP folder. So that's again another great feature for users who want to keep the data intact as if it was written initially. So once you write any data within the FTP folder, again, they cannot make any changes to that data. They cannot delete the data. They can only read that data after it's written. So again, that's another great feature that we have introduced with FTP called warm feature. You can also, under users, we have introduced more. So these are the users. You can create more users for FTP only. So they only have access to FTP accounts or FTP service. You can also, if you create any user within the QNAP, they can all have access to FTP as well. We also support domain users. The QNAP is joined to a domain account. The domain users can also have access to FTP as well. You can also create groups for FTP. Another great feature we have introduced with FTP called rules engine. What this allows you to do is you can create new rules. By creating new rules, you can give them access to restriction hours. So let's say if you want to, I think I already have that one here set up. Yeah, so I've created an FTP rule for access hours. So you can now set access hours. So with this rule, if anyone is using this particular rule, they can only access the FTP services within these hours and these days. So on weekends, they don't have access to FTP service. So when they try to access FTP service after hours, they won't be able to access the FTP service. They won't get access to it. Even after hours, you can also deny them during certain hours of the day. So only during work hours, they will have access to FTP service. That's this particular rule that I have set up. Another great feature is you can also set root folders per user. So now, let's say you can actually have multiple rules. I can actually create another rule with different restriction hours. So I can set up different restriction hours for this particular rule. And also I can set them a different root folder as well. So they can so this particular user will have access to this particular public folder. You can also do watermark as well. So if they upload pictures and videos, QNAP will automatically put in a watermark within that particular photos and videos. You can also specify where the watermark should be placed. You can also customize your watermark. You can just drag and drop the image, and they can select that right here as well. Again, I can select. If I do custom, I can just select where this particular image should be watermarked within that photo or video. You can also do a custom image of your of your choosing as well. If you have your own watermark image that you want to upload, you can also upload that from here as well. And you can also do tiled as well. And then you can copy, your watermark will be available here as well. So again, you can do tiled again, just puts watermark like this on different on the whole image or video. Okay, so again, that's a new feature that we have introduced with FTP on the QNAP. Again, once you have done all your settings, you can add. So rule 2, add right here. So now if you go to users and edit the user permission, you can apply which rule that user will have access to. So I have, if you remember, under rules, I had 2 different rules, right? Home folder and rule 2. Now I can select this user should use rule for home, the rule 2, or this user can use rule 1. So again, you can choose which user can access which rule. And then you can also do for different users, they can have access to different users as well, or different rules. So different users can now have access to different FTP folders. They can have access to different FTP time usage as well. So again, multiple features that we have introduced with the new FTP service using rules feature. Going back to systems, you can have connections. How many maximum connections can FTP accept? So by default, it's 30. So maximum FTP connections that this NAS can accept is 30. You can also increase that here as well. So right here, you can actually, it's upper limit of 1024. So that's maximum limit of FTP services that QNAP can accept. And each single account, each single account. So if a user, let's say myself, right, the ball, I'm a user with FTP services, I can actually use multiple clients. I can use a computer, I can use my phone, I can use my desktop computer. And with this, you can actually let them know how many simultaneous connections can a single user can set up. So I can actually have 10 different devices connected to this particular server at the same exact time. Once I exceed that number, 11th connection will be disabled. They won't be allowed to connect. And you can also deny them to just 1 connection per. I'm sorry, 2 connections minimum. So 2 connections, only 2 connections are allowed at the minimum. You can also set up transfer limitation as well. So FTP services can only use maximum of, you can set up 100 or 1000 kilobytes per second. And also same for downloads as well. You can also do downloads, or you can just leave it as unlimited. You can also do specific user limitations by user as well. If you have a user that doesn't require, it has a lower priority, you can give them a lower usage for speed. So I can ask myself to have a lower speed limit, and admin will have a higher speed limit as well. You can also do that as well. You can also do by groups as well. So you have a lot more control now with FTP, and rest remains the same. The passport as well. So FTP, you can also do remote FTP connection as well. You can create your own FTP if you want this QNAP to join to another FTP server. Just put in the information of the FTP. Username password, you can specify a particular folder, or you can mount directly the whole FTP service. So this way you can actually connect to third-party FTP services as well. Okay, so that's the new QU FTP service within the QTS 5.0. That's a new feature that we have introduced with QTS 5.0. And the last feature that I want to go over with is QVPN service. Now, QVPN service, QNAP already had QVPN for a long time, but now with QTS 5.0, we have introduced a new server, a VPN server called WireGuard. Now, WireGuard is a new VPN server that we have introduced with QTS 5.0, and with this server, it's actually WireGuard it's a lightweight VPN server that's dedicated for performance. So now we can enable WireGuard VPN server. You can provide a server name. You can create also it's more secure as well, because you need private key, public key to gain access to FTP server. Only then, and also you have to create a peer table to connect to FTP servers. And then For different clients, like Windows have WireGuard service, or Mac also has something called WireGuard application. Under App Center, you can create a WireGuard App Center, and we have a guide on how to set up WireGuard VPN with QNAP or QNAP. So we have a step-by-step guide on how to set up WireGuard within the QNAP server. Basically, you just have to enable the FTP server right here, and to give a server name, you have to generate a private key, and also you will have a public key and the IP address that the server will give out when somebody connects to the VPN server. Also, you have to set up a DNS. We have a quick DNS server. We have a guide that helps set you up a DNS server. You can use public, or you can manually assign your own. We have under public, we have a lot more options to choose between now. You can use Google's WireGuard server. We have Norton. We have a lot more options, so you can select. And once you have selected that, you can hit apply, and the QNAP will use that DNS server. And then once you set up your server part, then you have to add your VPN client. So you have to add a peer. You can actually set up a peer name, and the public key, you have to set up a public key right here. So you add an empty tunnel, and then you can copy this public key, and you have to first paste your private key right here. So copy and paste, and then you have to copy this public key that QNAP will then connect and apply. Or we already have, because I already created one, so it won't allow me to create another one. So right here, I already have one that's created right here. Once you have done that, once you have done all the private key, you have to enter the address. Now this is all, you have to manually enter this information right here. So once you have done that, so right here I've created the public key and peer name, and then once you have done that, you have to enter your address, DNS, public key, allowed IPs, and endpoint. So the way you enter is just enter address, and then enter the address which is on the IP address page right here. So 198.18.7.1/24. So once you that, once it's successfully entered, it will turn into a regular color. Otherwise, it will be red, right, like this. Then you have to enter the DNS. So you have to create a DNS right here. DNS equals to whatever you have as a DNS server. You have to enter that here as well. Okay, once you have done that, hit apply. And the public key, again, the public key right here, that you have to copy this public key and then paste it right here in the public key. Allowed IP, just change to 0.0.0.0/0. So it has all the access to the network. And an endpoint is the address for the server. So this is my home server. And once you have, so DTP 870, whatever the address that you have, and then colon, the port number that the WireGuard uses is 51820. 51820 is the port number that WireGuard uses. Once you've entered all that information, hit save and hit activate. And this will, now I'm not going to do this on this particular demo, because if I do this, my computer will get disconnected. So, but once you hit activate, the QNAP will now connect using WireGuard VPN services, and will be able to access my network using this QNAP. So that's the new connection method that the QNAP introduces with QVPN service 3. We still have access to other VPN services like QVPN, L2TP, PPTP, and then QBelt. So, and then under VPN clients, we also now support, again, WireGuard as a VPN client as well. So you can enter those information right here, and that is it. So that's how you can actually access QNAP with VPN services. And the last part I'm going to go through is so remember we initialized a NAS, right? So now once you finish initialization of the NAS, you can go to NAS management. You can log in with the new account. And once you log in with the new account, it will be greeted with data privacy. This was already there with the older firmware, but now the new features that we have introduced once the initialization finishes is the guide. It will show you how to access the guides, just a quick guide through the QNAP, and now it will actually open up storage and serve snapshot automatically. So now it will guide you how to create a new storage with the QNAP as well. And here on the bottom right, you can now have setup instructions below. This will allow you to this will guide you through what you need to do. So first you need to create a storage space, then you need to create a QNAP ID or join your QNAP NAS with the QNAP ID, and then set security policies. When you click anything, it will actually go to that page. So you just have to add and install. Once you have done that, you also have help center. This will allow you to actually you can actually access your QTS manual, online resources, help desk directly from the QNAP under notification board. No longer need to go to a website to access your manuals and everything like that. It will all be available from the help center right here under the QNAP under notice board. It also gives you suggestion how to increase the protection for your NAS by enabling, like we recommend enabling two-step authentication. And when you click on that, it will actually guide through how to set up a two-factor authentication within the QNAP. So again, more detailed guide on how to do once the initialization process is finished. QNAP will still provide you more feedback on how to improve your NAS security and also how to guide you on using the NAS. Also gives you access to QTS manual and all that features right from the notification board after the QNAP has initialized the NAS. So again, new great features available with QNAP QTS5.0. So those are the major features that I wanted to demo today. But if you guys have any further questions, you can let me know. But again, thank you for joining and thank you for today's demo. All right, back to you, Cody.
All right, and with that, we will go into a Q&A time. So if you have any questions, you can just type them in the question box, and we'll be getting to those for you guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so going back to the questions, we only have a few questions right here regarding. Unfortunately, we were sorry about the mic issues that we had during the beginning of the webinar. Hopefully that was fixed for the mic issues. Let's start with the questions. The first question we have is QUFTP, if the worm is enabled, how can the files be removed after the worm is expired? So right now, the only way to disable or disable worm, only if you want to remove the data is to delete the shared folder. There's no way, and there's no option right now as of yet to expire the worm privileges. So once the data is written, it cannot be deleted. Only an admin account with admin privileges can go inside the NAS and delete that shared folder. Only that way the files can be removed for protection of the files. So I will actually add a feature request to have a new feature introduced with FTP or with worm to have an expiration date. So after you can actually say, the feature may introduce with QTFTP with worm is an expiry date. So after maybe 30 days, the data can be deleted or rewritten, or you can set it up as forever, where the data is never deleted or rewritten. But right now, the only way to delete the data is to remove or delete the whole data, or delete the whole folder actually. And only admin account can do that, by the way, just making sure. Another question we have is how to set up multi-folder access from Dropbox with only one-way sync. So that is still available with all our it's not specifically QTS5.0. That feature is available with our QNAP NAS already. So there are multiple ways to access your Dropbox data, right? So if you want to do a one-way sync, you can do a hybrid backup sync with the QNAP NAS, and that will allow you to backup, or that will allow you to actually have one-way sync to your Dropbox account. And you can just you can open up the application and you can go to sync, and you can create a one-way sync with the Dropbox account, and it will allow you to select multiple folders. Right now, I don't actually have access to Dropbox, but let me see if I have access to another cloud service. All right, once you allow, this should be similar to Dropbox, but I'm just using Google Drive as an example because I do have an account with them. But it should be similar to Dropbox as well. So once you select your account, you can actually have multiple paired folders. I can actually have a paired folder with another Google Drive. On my Google Drive, I can actually add another paired folder as well if I wanted to. So I actually have multiple paired folders going to my Dropbox or my Google Drive with using this particular feature. So you can actually have this. You can actually have multiple folders syncing to Dropbox using QNAP NAS. So that's feature. I think that's what you meant. Hopefully that covers that. Another question is, can you revert back to version 4.x? Yes, you can revert back to version 4.x, but some applications may not work, like QFTP or QVPN. The new versions of these applications may not work because QFTP is already, the FTP service is already available with the 4.5 with the 4.x versions. So if you do downgrade, you cannot use the new features like free expat license, QFTP, or WireGuard VPN services. But you can downgrade that if you need to. Does 5 still support a couple of security cameras for free? Yes. So the QTS5 will still have QBR Pro available. So we have QBR Pro and then QBR Elite that does allow you to give access to multiple cameras for free. So that still remains the same. Oh, yeah. So I think there are apps. Another question is, there are apps in the that insist on the default admin ID and password the new ID is created. Can we re-enable the admin account? Yes. So if if you talk about QNAP apps, they should already be migrating to the new admin account. They should not need access to the default account. But if there are applications, if there are third-party applications that do require the default admin account, as I mentioned, you can go under Control Center under Users, and you can re-enable the admin account if you need to. So right here, my NAS does still have the account enabled. I can disable it. I can re-enable it as well. So the admin account can be disabled, re-enabled anytime if you need to. Another question is, can we watch the video again? Yes, we would upload this webinar on our YouTube channel, and we will post a follow-up to every one of you guys who have joined us. That you can rewatch the video as well. Also, another question is the photo organizer soon. I'm not really sure what exactly that means. Hopefully you can elaborate on that question. Another question is, does 5.0 use a replace or upgrade process? For example, if I only use the NAS as a Plex media server, is that an easy process? Or do I have to back up and restore? No. If you have an existing NAS that does have 4.5 firmware, you can just upgrade it and nothing will be lost. This is an upgrade process. You're not replacing the NAS or you're not replacing the firmware. You're just upgrading it. So everything that's already working will still keep working. You're just getting a new feature. But this is just a firmware upgrade, not a whole operating system that you need to reinstall. Again, this is just a firmware upgrade. You're just upgrading the firmware, basically. How long can new NAS owners like I get free online and phone support? So that's a great question. QNAP does not have a limitation on how long can you get a free online and phone support. As long as you have a QNAP NAS, you can keep calling us. You can keep submitting tickets, and we'll be able to assist you no matter what. There's no limitation on how long will you get phone support or online support. We have users who have been actually using this NAS for over 15 years. They still keep calling us. We'll still keep supporting them. There's no there's no limitation on how long you can get support for. As long as you have a QNAP NAS, you will get support. Only after maybe a few years down the line, you may stop getting firmware updates because your hardware may not support it. But even the 5.0 firmware, we have NASs over 4 to 5 years old that can still upgrade their older NAS to 5.0 firmware as well. So as long as we think that your hardware can support the new firmware, we'll be able to provide that to you at no cost. I cannot see any of your slides. It just disappeared. I'm sorry. I forgot to enable the screen sharing, so I did enable the screen sharing. I missed your Dropbox replay. Yeah, give me a few minutes, and I can let me go through the questions. I can I can go through that guide again. Another question is, can I upgrade my TVS 873 to 5.0? Yes, you can upgrade your 873 to 5.0. It should be available today. We did release a final version for 5.0 today. So all your NAS, just log into your NAS. You should get an update, or you should get a pop-up for the firmware upgrade, or you can just go to QNAP.com and download the firmware. There was an issue with virtual switches where you cannot select the default VLAN once you start creating virtual switches. Was it able to fix in later firmware? Now, I'm not aware about that particular bug, but you can try checking it on your end, or submit a support ticket asking that question, and we can confirm that for you. But I'm not really sure on that question as of yet. Your support is excellent. Great job. Thank you so much for that feedback. Another question is, just updated my 5.0 to 1677, or 1677, no apparent problems. Yeah, we hope that, because the 5.0 was already on beta version for some time, so we were able to get a lot of feedback from you guys for all the bugs, any feature requests we did for this particular final release. Everything should be working fine. So make sure you update to the latest version for today's that was released today. That's the final version for QTS5.0. Just keep showing. You can keep asking questions. We have a lot more. I think we have final question for now. Should I do a consecutive upgrade, or just go to 5.0, version 5.0? If you do have any firmwares like 4.3, 4.2, you can upgrade to 5.0 directly. There's no consecutive firmware upgrade needed as of yet. So any firmwares lower than 4.2 should be able to upgrade. Anything lower than that, we do recommend contacting support, or do a firmware upgrade to 4.3, 4.4, and then go to 4.5. But anything from 4.2 should be okay to upgrade. All right. If you have any further questions, keep asking us. But going back to the demo that I missed, or I forgot to turn on screen sharing, is about hybrid backup sync with multiple folders. So if you want to do multiple folder syncing with hybrid backup sync, as I mentioned, you can hybrid backup sync does allow you to do that. So you can go to hybrid backup sync application right here, and then you can go to sync, one-way sync. Now, I don't have a Dropbox account as of yet, so I'm just going to give an example with Google Drive account, which should be similar. So once you enable, or once you authenticate your cloud account, you can select, and now you can actually select multiple syncing folders. So you can actually have container folder synced to one of the Dropbox folder right here. I can select another folder that is syncing to another folder on Dropbox account. So you can this way you can actually have multiple folders. You can actually have another folder as well syncing to another folder on my Dropbox account or Google Drive on this example. So again, you have a lot. So this allows you to select multiple folders syncing to Dropbox using one-way sync. So again, that's hopefully that answers your question about multi-folder syncing using Dropbox. How do I find the best QNAP YouTube videos on photo management? We actually just had another webinar that goes through photo management, actually multimedia management. Actually, it was a workshop that we did, I think a month back, that actually covered that subject. So I think Cody can help with the with that particular account. It's on your YouTube account that you can actually access and look at all our previous videos, guides on how to do photo management on all that particular feature. Can you, Cody, can you help provide that information?
Yeah, for our more recent webinars, workshops, and tutorials, if you go to the QNAP College channel, that's going to be your best bet. Because we do have a few different channels. But if you just go to our QNAP College channel and then you hit the videos, you'll be able to see all of our workshops and webinars uploaded there, as well as some of our tutorial videos. And we'll also be sending a follow-up email with a link to this video, and that will also be on that channel, on the QNAP College channel.
All right, we have another question. Is QUMAGI the only solution? So for photo management, we recommend QUMAGI, or we have PhotoStation that does photo management. But QUMAGI is the main application that we have introduced that does photo management with QNAP NAS. So if you visit, so let me see if I have a QUMAGI set up already. So QUMAGI, again, this gives you, it's a great tool that allows you to do photo management right here. It does detect everything like people, things, tagging, places, events. Recently imported, all that information will be the QUMAGI will allow you to do this. It uses AI within the QNAP NAS to do management. You can also do by places. The QNAP will look at your videos and photos, will automatically create all these like automatically create places for you. Also does things. It does like aerial photography, airline. So we'll look at your photos and it will create. It will give you a good management tool to allow you to do photo management with QUMAGI. So I do recommend QUMAGI for your photo management application. Another question is, are there any issues joining the QNAP to Microsoft domain or Azure domain? No, I don't. We haven't seen any issues. That's actually one of the most used features with QNAP NAS joining to an AD server. We haven't had any issues with that or any bug reports for joining to a QNAP NAS or joining QNAP NAS to a domain controller that you should be able to you should be able to join with no problems. In addition, another question is in adding to an AD server, any issues with having domain controllers as a VMs on the QNAP? No, actually, I haven't seen any issues. We have a lot of users actually use that, but it's when rebooting the NAS may create issues, because then you have to understand which one you want to reboot first. So you can just at that point, I think I would just recommend rebooting just shutting down the VM and then rebooting the NAS, and then once the NAS is booted back up, turn on the VM again, and the QNAP should be able to rejoin the domain controller or to that domain. But I haven't seen any issues using the VM as a domain controller. I personally use it as well, so I haven't seen any issues as well with VM domain controller. Sure. Let me. I think I'm gonna hand Ron. I think you want to see how to access your college videos, right? Cody will guide you through that, but let me go through a few questions before that. I have a file duplicator application on my PC under Windows 10. Can I map my files on this PC app to check the file duplicator? If that, you can map a drive on the QNAP, on the QNAP using Samba, and if that application supports Samba, you should be able to use that application to find duplicate folders and files on the QNAP. Should be fine. Right now, there's no duplicate app duplicate or an application available to check for duplication, file duplication on the QNAP NAS. If you're looking for photo duplication, we do have an application called QUMAGI. QUMAGI will allow you to actually there's a feature within QU called similar photos, and when you click on similar photos, it will look at your photos within the QNAP NAS. For any similar photos, you can remove or delete or delete them or merge them depending upon that. But it's only for photos. But don't have any available. We don't have any file duplication available for any other type of files. Another question is, my QNAP keeps disappearing on my NW browser. I can only access it via IP, but not from the browser. I'm not really sure on that. Yeah, I'm not really sure on that question, unfortunately. I would recommend creating a help desk support ticket on the help desk app, or go to helpdesk.qnap.com, and someone should be able to help you or assist you with that. I'm gonna stop the screen sharing for a few minutes. I'm gonna hand this over back to Cody. Cody, can you help show how to access the QNAP college videos?
Yeah.
You can now be able to share your screen.
Okay. Okay, so here I'm just on the YouTube site. And so if you just search for QNAP College here, this is our QNAP College channel. And so here under videos, you can see, also you can check playlists. We have one for workshops, we have one for webinars, and then we have these various tutorials here. So why is the Terra truck? You can just go in that way, and here you can see a bunch of different webinars we've done. And does that answer the question?
Can you go back to videos, Cody?
Yeah.
Scroll down.
Sorry, let me get this guy off. Okay.
You go back up. Go back up. So right here, there's the workshop called for storage and apps for multimedia. That was uploaded about 2 months ago. I think Ron was asking that question. Yes. So that application I would recommend for you to look at for photo management or multimedia management. That workshop is about I think over an hour and a half long, and we do dive deep into how to manage your photos and videos or any kind of multimedia application, and we go through QUmagi, Photo Station, multimedia application, all those applications, even Plex as well. I would do recommend looking at that video or watching that video, and hopefully you should be able to get a lot more answers through that question or through that video. Sorry. Another question is, just want to thank you for webinar. Yeah, thank you so much for the feedback. Again, if you guys have any further questions, keep pouring in. Yeah, we're here about for 2 more minutes after the questions end. All right, perfect. Seems like no further questions. So again, thank you for joining, everyone, and hopefully you were able to get more information about the new firmware as well as all the questions that we answered today. And thank you for joining today's webinar.